So it's impeachment 2021. The Democrats feel ever more emboldened, not only after securing victory of the 2020 election with certification of President Joe Biden, and also gaining the majority in both the House and the Senate, feeling though they can get this done, they also feel ever more emboldened to get this rushed through after the riot or storming of the Capitol building. Now, I made a video yesterday talking about how I feel as though the GOP is dead after they're failing to not only try to empathize with their voter base, but not really standing up for Trump. I do want to make not a full-on correction. I still believe that at least the GOP establishment is dead, and depending on what happens in the Senate, we'll see what happens. But there are those in the House of Representatives that are actually fighting and are echoing the sentiments of their voter base. So shout out to Congressman Steve Cabot, Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne, if I'm pronouncing that right, Bill Posey, and I want to give a special shout out next to Congressman Matt Gaetz for this awesome speech on Congress floor today. Take a listen.
An itch that doesn't go away with just one scratch. It also seems that President Trump may be most likely to be impeached when he is correct. Before the last presidential impeachment, President Trump rightly pointed out the improper activities of the Biden crime family, and subsequently he's been proven right. And don't think for a moment, Madam Speaker, that we're going to drop that or stop our pursuit for the truth. Before that, we had the Russia hoax, where you had the president rightly making claims that Hillary Clinton and the DNC were colluding with Russians to disorient our democracy. How right he turned out to be. And then we have the 2020 presidential election, where the president correctly pointed out unconstitutional behavior, voting irregularities, concerns over tabulations, dead people voting, and now impeachment again. When they go low, we kick them. Eric Holder, former Attorney General under Barack Obama, breaching the Capitol was as low can be. We all denounce it. But who is it that they're kicking? The president, who created soaring highs for our economy, rising wages before the pandemic, 400 miles of wall to stop the caravans, who drew down troops in the Middle East and showed empathy for the forgotten men and women of our country. It's why so many people love him so much, and it's why they're kicking all of us. This president has faced unprecedented hatred and resistance from big media, big tech, and big egos, from congressional leaders on both sides of the aisle. Before the rioters tore through that glass, Speaker Pelosi stood at that rostrum and tore through the president's State of the Union speech, inciting anger, resentment, division. Some believe that truly these true colors are being shown now through this divisive partisan impeachment. The Speaker of the House, I'll request an additional 40 seconds.
Go through the speaker, please. The gentleman from Ohio.
Madam Speaker, I yield the gentleman additional 40 seconds.
4 seconds or 40 seconds?
Yep, 40 seconds.
45 seconds.
I thank the gentleman. The Speaker said to us just moments ago, words matter. But apparently those words don't matter when they're uttered by Democrats. When the gentlelady from Massachusetts calls for unrest in the streets. When the gentlelady from California brazenly brags that she called for people to get in the faces of those who serve and support the president. I denounce political violence from all ends of the spectrum, but make no mistake, the left in America has incited far more political violence than the right. For months, our cities burned, police stations burned, our businesses were shattered, and they said nothing. Or they cheerlead for it, and they fundraised for it, and they allowed it to happen in the greatest country in the world. Now, some have cited the metaphor that the president lit the flame. Well, they lit actual flames, actual fires, and we...
That right there was an amazing speech and was the kind of fight that I believe a lot of the Trump supporters were looking to hear from the GOP, who, while they may have let them down when it came to the certification, well, Congress, I don't think, let them down. You had 139 congressmen, Republicans, that voted against certification, and they'll remain hold the loyalty of Trump supporters. But I think that's what they were looking for, is an acknowledgement of their anger, frustration, and irregularities that were being brushed off as not fact or not true. And so even if you didn't agree with the reactions that took place at the Capitol, which, by the way, out of the reported around 500,000 people who were at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. last week on January the 6th, you may have only had a few dozen actually breach and break into the Capitol building. A few dozen out of potentially as many as 500,000. Talk about mostly peaceful, while the majority of the others stayed put and just protested outside the Capitol building. But I digress. They just at least wanted acknowledgement, even if you didn't agree with the methods that a few dozen took. At the very least, acknowledge what pushed the frustrations that caused the anger last week, and also acknowledge the irregularities in the voting system and how divisive this was, and the true anger, as well as the hypocrisy of those on the other side, both in Congress and in the media, for defining protests one way during the summer when it suited their goals and their causes, and then flip the switch when, after years of hounding and harassing many Trump supporters, I liken it to that infamous scenes of bully big brothers who would grab their smaller little brothers by the arm and just make them hit themselves and say, "Why are you hitting yourself?" You know, that's been the left, mainstream media, and those in Congress for the last several years as it pertains to the 74 million Trump supporters, and or should I say voters out there, calling them basket of deplorables, encouraging individuals to find Trump supporters, whether they be actual individuals and or those in office, surround them, harass them, let them know they're not welcome here. They have agitated the other side for years, and when the other side finally got boiled up, I love Matt Gaetz' statement there, pretty much echoing the sentiments and holding his ground. So he, I believe, is going to have a great political future if he carries on that. And then there is Representative Louie Gohmert, who went on to say this.
Here's a quote. "I just don't even know why there aren't more uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be." Or, "Sadly, the domestic enemies of our voting system and honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue with their allies in Congress of the United States. We were called enemies of the state." Those are all quotes from our speaker. Now, on our side, we didn't take those to be impeachable because we didn't believe she surely meant that. But by the Democrats taking this action, you're telling me, no, when we say those, we actually mean to incite violence.
Now, if you're a little lost on what he was quoting and or referencing, he was referencing Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, when she said this.
Being with their moms. This is, I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be, when people realize that this is a policy that they.
So it looks like impeachment is on. It's going to start in the House. They're going to try to rush through this. No hearings, no committees, no investigations, just a rush vote. They do have the majority and already got a few Republican congressmen in the House to join on. Even without it, they have the majority. They're going to get him impeached for the second time during his presidency, second time within 1 year. And then it's going to go to the Senate. Why are they doing this when in less than 1 week, 7 days, by the time many of you see this video, 6 days or maybe even less, when he's going to be removed from office, he's going to comply. He's already said, I concede, I've exhausted all of my options. Come January the 20th, I'll leave. I may not attend inauguration, but Donald Trump has announced he will leave office accordingly. So Biden's going to take office come January the 20th. Why do this? If they can convince, and they still need a 2/3 majority. So though they won the Senate in this Georgia runoff, they still only have 50 secured Democratic votes, I believe. 50 or 49. And so that's not enough to get a 2/3 majority. They still need at least 16 Republican senators to join. And you've already, CNN has already come up with an article stating that they may have anywhere from 10 to 20 Republican supporters, including potentially Pat Toomey and Mitch McConnell, to say the least. They're just haven't been confirmed one way or another, but the fact that they're even mulling on it doesn't sound all that great. But they would need at least 16 to 17 Republican senators to agree. And if they can win that Senate hearing, which would be rushed and not even occur until after Biden's inauguration on January the 20th, the purpose is to ensure that Trump can never hold office again. Because with a conviction in the Senate, while he may not serve prison time, that will definitely be up to them if they were to rule against Trump. But it would also at least guarantee that he can never hold office again, and thwarting off a potential 2024 run. That's all that this is about. Otherwise, they are wasting, I feel as though, millions of voters' money and time. This is a process that costs millions of taxpayer money, and they're doing this to crush the other side. Because Trump did get a record number of 74 million votes, about 12 to 14 million more than he did in 2016, grew in every avenue possible, with the only way for Biden to really overcome that differential, I believe, was the irregularities in key places, but we'll never know. It was never investigated. And so he got record numbers of votes, increased turnout in votes in the black community, both black male, black female, increased Latino vote, increased in the LGBTQ community vote, increased in white female vote. So for someone who's supposed to be a misogynist and sexist, he got increased votes in all of the minority check boxes. And his popularity within the GOP is over 90%. Depending on which polls you view, all of the polls have been, for the most part, off during the presidential election, but he's vastly popular even to this day within the GOP party, has a massive influence like you've never seen, which is why I believe if the Republicans refuse to stand up for what the voter base really are passionate about, the Trump supporters will kill the Republican Party. But again, massively popular, and a lot of his supporters, while may not agree with taking over the Capitol building, don't agree with the spin and are equally frustrated with what happened and are understandable and don't agree with it. So there's no national mandate. This is only to crush, not only stop Donald Trump from running for office again, but to crush the other side in every conceivable way possible, not only after the stop the steal of what happened with the election, with pushing through the irregularities, kicking the Trump supporters off of social media within the last week. I'll do a video on that, speaking to how dangerous and scary that is. But on top of potentially stealing the election from them, kicking them off of social media, now you're saying, you know what, we're going to convict them, and no matter what you want in 2024, you're not going to get him. This is like submit to our will. No unity, just bow. That's what's really going on. So that's my video. This is Bruce the Boss Brooks. I want to thank you for coming to my channel, watching this video. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and click that subscription button. It goes a long way with helping out in the YouTube algorithms in this day of mass media purging of alternative voices, regardless of whether or not, if you're conservative, libertarian, if you're not Democrat, you're getting kicked out. I am not a conservative Republican. I don't identify with anything. I am politically homeless, essentially, but all alternative voices are being silenced, and your subscriptions will go a long way with that. Don't forget to hit the like button. Also, I want to hear your thoughts, so please don't forget to comment on this video, share this video. This is Bruce the Boss Brooks, and I'm out. Peace.